Hi everyone, this is Nightmare on Scam Street. Right, I've been trying for a couple of days to make it into Juneau. I don't really know what's going wrong. It's a very difficult airport to approach. There's lots of hills in the way, and the main thing seems to be that there's no ILS, so you're doing an RNAV approach, which brings you in a line that's probably about 10 degrees off the runway line, which is quite difficult to manage. So what I've done, I've worked out a relatively short flight from Whitehorse, which is north of Juneau, to Juneau. Hopefully we'll get it in this time without too many bumps or scrapes. Once again, I'm flying the Airbus A320 by Fenix, and if you look at the bottom of the screen, I've put a link to Saul's email address. He's quite happy for me to put this address on there. If you have an airplane and you want custom livery for it, he's the guy to go to. He's very active on flightsim.to, which is the sort of go-to site for add-ons and freebies and things like that. And I think he works on a donation basis, but that's something for you to sort out with him. All I can say is he has done an absolutely amazing job on my Fenix A320. And I'm so pleased with it. I'm going to get him to do the fly-by-wire A320 as well. So anyway, that's enough of that. We're currently just at the taxi onto runway, gosh, can't remember the runway that we're going to be taking off from. 32 left. Yeah, I've been playing around with this all morning actually, and then I had to have a break, and so the afternoon just went by. Now it's dinner time and I'm about to try again. Hopefully won't get called away. Hopefully everything will go to plan. It's not a terribly long flight. It's quite hard to find a short flight in Alaska. It's a big place and there aren't many people there. They're very well spread out, and for whatever reason I've just got this thing in my head about flying into Juneau. Hope I make it this time. So I'm flying with my new pedals, the Logitech pedal set, which is rudder pedals with integrated toe brakes, and that's taken a little bit of getting used to, the toe brakes, because I'm finding when I'm pressing the pedals I'm accidentally pressing the toe brakes as well. These things need to be screwed to the ground, or at least fixed to the ground. Luckily I can fix mine to the ground quite well, and I found that I think they're a bit too close still. I think I need to move them a bit further away from me. I think that's why I'm accidentally pushing on the brake. So we're just coming around to the hold point for the runway. I think my AI first officer will automatically ask for clearance. As you know, those are the only two cheats I really use, are the artificial first officer for the radio and the taxi lights. And some airports, they're quite clever at turning the taxi lights on for you to taxi along. Other airports, they just turn them all on. So I've decided that whatever airport I fly on, they're just on for me. So let's nip over to the tower. We'll do this takeoff clearance. Cleared for takeoff, so we can get a wiggle on. I was told that my microphone volume was a bit low. In fact, it was Mrs. Nightmare that told me that. I've turned the gain up a little. Hopefully it's not too loud now. Where I've got the microphone situated now, also, I can't actually see the joystick. So I have to do everything by touch. I'm not making excuses for a bad landing later. If it's a bad landing, I'll take it on the head and the body and the legs and the arms and whichever of parts of me get pummeled. So I'm using the tiller, the Hun, it's actually a very simple device, the tiller. It's designed around a USB board that accepts analog inputs and digital inputs, and it's just a potentiometer with probably a 5 centimeter long piece of rod on it that acts as the steering mechanism. Okay, I've done the pre-flight checks. Go up to half speed. Up to flex, and away we go. Get my feet on the pedals, try not to steer us off the runway at this early stage. Of course, at this low speed, it's the tiller that does the work, not the pedals. And I've done it again, I've forgotten to trust me, I can fly, honestly. You'd never believe it though, would you? This is it's a weird old departure. I think I'm departed on the wrong runway for whatever reason, but that's what we did. Let's get down, gear up. I don't know how I've managed to get that there. I don't want that there at all. There we go. I like to try and get the autopilot on fairly quickly so I can do a bit of tidying up and get the plane sorted out. Luckily the A320 tends to let you get the autopilot on fairly quickly. I'm still heading on that 328 course. I don't know what's happened. There we go. It's gone off now at last. Right, I know the seatbelt signs are on. They can stay on just now. I wouldn't want to be without a seatbelt the way I fly. So I did ask if anybody wants to leave any comments about any particular flights they might be interested in seeing. Some of the we've got the autopilot on, so we can get rid of the auto brake. So when I did this a bit earlier, mind your ears, sorry, the view was amazing, but it was pretty dark, and of course time's flown on since then. I'll be careful to listen. So I think I've set standard weather, so it should be 29 and 9 or 2. Of course, being in the States, you do everything by inches. I'm sure you've got rods and pecks and bushels and things like that. I don't know. I haven't really worked out why the US has been so slow at adopting the decimal format. I know the money's dollars and cents and things like that, but I really haven't understood why you haven't adopted meters and centimeters and things. Mind you, saying that, in Britain it's a bit hybrid, that people will say, oh yeah, we've got to go 6 kilometers, or we've got to go, it's a 5 meter wide road and we've got to drive along it 32 miles. That's common practice, that we use miles. Most of the road signs are in miles, which 40 odd years after, 50 years after decimalization, I don't understand. So everything's looking good now. Let's have a quick look at the temperatures in the cabin and such like. Conditioning. 25, 24. So let's lower the temperature at the back of the cabin. It's still a bit high. I put the cockpit temperature way down earlier because it was like 28 degrees in the cockpit. So it says there's no nav intercept. I'm assuming that means I don't know what that means. It's gone anyway. Seatbelts can come off now. Let's let the passengers have a little wander around and get in the way of the crew. It's just amazing. I've always been interested in Alaska. It seems to be stuck out of the way, right up on the northeast part of America and off the northeast part of Canada, isn't it? We're only a few miles away from Russia, the Bering Straits and that, and it's almost a country of its own. It's big though, isn't it? Alaska's huge. If I was wanting to go to Alaska, I think I'd have to think long and hard, because it's such a big place, you really don't know what you're likely to miss. Climb again. 210, I believe, is our cruise height for this flight. That tick 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 means that we were close to the oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's about 17,000 feet or something. I can't remember, where you have to switch the barometers to standard. In America it's different to Europe. Europe is 6,000 feet, or I think 7,000 feet. Oh, we've got to turn off the APU. I've done the APU. No, I didn't. I'll do this the proper way, then I won't get confused. There's too many things I can switch off accidentally. We don't need the APU now. The APU, for those who aren't sure, is the auxiliary power unit. It is in fact a small jet engine that sits at the back of the plane and exhausts through a hole in the rear part of the plane. Just show you quickly where the exhaust is. There. That's the APU exhaust. Underneath you'll see that flap. That's the air intake for the APU. Now the APU is used on the ground so that there's enough energy and electrical energy, and also enough compressed air to start the engine, because the engines are started by compressed air. They're actually spun around, and the compressed air is provided by the APU. If you have an APU fault and you've got no engines running, you can get compressed air from the ground. It's not a generally normal thing, but it's available. So you can get your at least one engine started using the ground compressed air. Once your one engine is started, you can cross feed the output of one engine into the input of the other one to get that second engine started. So a quick look at the map, and as before, bears very little resemblance to the real thing, but it'll give us an idea of where we are. We're there. So we've got this really weird sort of run into Juneau. So we come down here, we've got to skip across there, and then we've got to hop across a couple of little hills, and then do a last minute turn. I think the flight plan, the flight plan stops there. So basically you're on your own, you've got a visual landing from there. That's fine. I managed to do a visual landing into Juneau about 3 times today. Before I decided to try it for real. If I was a real airline pilot, I'd probably be hanging my head in shame at the attempts I've had at landing into Juneau so far. But I'm not. Although, when I do hit the ground hard, I sort of feel it, which is a strange thing. Now, remember the other day we talked about the ETP, the equal time point? Now, here is a conundrum for this flight, in that from Whitehorse to Juneau, there's no other airports that you could use as an alternative. So the alternate for Juneau is Whitehorse. So effectively, if you happen to be in trouble, if you get to this point here, it'd be best to turn around and go back to Whitehorse. If you get to this point here, it'd be better to carry on. So we're being handed over to anchorage control. This handing over from one control center to another is a lot to do with radio coverage. If you're in close to, say, for example, Whitehorse, there'll be a center that's near there that can hear all of your radio communications. But as you get further away, obviously the radio communications get worse and they can't hear you, so they pop you off to another control center. All they're interested in is your height, your speed, your direction, and your identity. And providing you're sticking to the rules of your flight plan, they don't really want to do anything else. It's very unlikely that anchorage center will say climb or rate, go higher, go lower, unless there's a conflict with another aircraft. So this ETP could be considered as the sort of halfway point. I think we've passed it now. The next thing we come up against, this is white down arrow. This is where we would start our descent. Now, if we look here, we're at flight level 210 there. TD, time to descend. I don't know exactly what that means. And then we're going to go down to flight level 190. So, and the next is HNG. I think that's what that says. HNS. HNS, yeah, we've got to be at 190 by HNS, and then the next one, 10,000. Notice it changes from FL 130 or 190 or whatever, just to 10,000. It's at this stage between here that you switch between standard barometer setting here, and you switch to an actual barometer setting. And as I said before, the barometer setting can make a huge difference to the height that your plane thinks it's at. So if you get the barometer setting wrong, you're really in trouble. So as expected, we've got a descent. 14,000. We'll do it in a controlled way. We'll see where the arrow tells us we're going to be at that height. So remember, this blue arrow is our estimated point for reaching the set height, which is flight level 140 or 14,000 feet. And then that arrow there tells us that we'll need to descend again. I don't know what that arrow means. Looks like it's a sort of glide slope arrow or something like that. I'm not sure. Haven't seen that one many times before. Gonna have to look that up. Here's the problem. If I try and look it up right now, you'll see my Chrome screen instead of my flight sim screen. Now I wish I could make these smaller. You can't really control the font on these as far as I can tell. I could do with a smaller font so I can squeeze it into like half that space. Quick scan of the map, see where we are. So I know we've started our descent. For a change, we're actually on the red line. So we go to chill, then there, then squeaky across, and then a last minute bump into Juneau. I'm going to make sure we're well set up this time. I'm going to be well in control of our speed and altitude and such like. So our speed just now, we're doing our cruise speed. Right, so we've come below 15,000 or 16,000 and we've got to go back to real heights now. The reason I know that STD is flashing at the bottom. At some point the controller will give us an actual QNH which we can enter in, and that'll make it more accurate. I wonder if I pick live weather. I may have done. Though it's unusual for the QNH to be where it is if it's live, if it's not live. No, sorry. If it's live, the QNH tends to not be 2992 all the time. So, we're coming in here. We've reached our 14,000 feet. The next is probably down to 10. So it's sort of taking us in the middle a bit. He's got his own descent rates. Yeah, the altitude selector has a little knob on the outside which allows you to switch between steps of 1,000 feet and 100 feet. I just love this view. It's truly amazing. I'm really skipping backwards and forwards between the instruments and the view. Can't afford to miss anything this time. I'll lose my wings. Right, I think we can reduce our speed a little. We're still in descent. But I'm going to set this... Oh, I hate doing that. Why did I do that? So if I set the speed to 240, because we haven't got very far to go. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay. 10, 20. It's only just over 30 miles, so I want to get the speed down. I'm not really worried about not going down quickly enough. We're going to be There's our little descent arrow. I think we're going to be okay for descent. I don't like the look of all those hills directly in front of us, I must say. And just hope that air traffic controller's got it right. Oh, we're going to turn around through a valley, aren't we? I think. Yep. So we should be down to our height. We are more or less getting there. That's where we should be at height, or this particular height. I'm sure it'll take us down again. The next step after that is 4,200-ish. So I know that when we get to Gumley, that was with Anchorage Centre. That's a different frequency. (2992). Right, so every time so we're clear to Gummel. Okie dokie, down to 3,400. Now, whoever's watching live when I land, if I land, I'm going to give you a free entry into my Patreon. So I'm going to be running a series of setup procedures, how to get from cold and dark to flying, for example, but in little easy to understand lumps. That's if I land. I'll land one way or another. We'll plough into the ground, or we'll float like a butterfly. One way or another, we'll get there. So we're not doing bad. We're not decreasing our height very much. So let's put some priority on that. Because we are getting to the point now where we really have to stay in control of things. There are some controls I always get it round the wrong way. So somewhere up ahead of us, and round this corner here, is Juneau. It's over that way somewhere. Okay, time for gear and flaps and things now. Below 240, so we can put the gear out. We're below 230, so I can put first lot of flaps out. So Juneau should be directly ahead of us. Brilliant time to have a sun. Oh, I see the runway, I think. There. Right, so we're going over the bit of a hill that's in front of the runway. We're okay, we're okay, we're okay. Far too high, but... Shh. Hush now. Might have known it. It was still too high. Gonna have to go round.
500.
I'm so annoyed at that. So I'm going to do a tight turn because I know there's terrain in the way. Did I choose the right direction to turn in? Ooh. Should be okay. Okay, that's a mess again. Why do I get it wrong all the time? Sort of flying a bit blind just now. I had to escape that huge hill directly in front of me. No, this isn't going to work either, is it? Okay, so we're heading away from Juneau, I hope. By now, if you're one of my passengers, the sick bags will be coming round. I really don't want to be climbing. I just want to head up this pass a little bit. I think that's the hill that keeps deceiving me. YXY. Right, in my head, I'm still heading away from Juneau because the beacon that's just in front of Juneau is still picking that up. And we're going closer to it, so that's alright. So let's do a gentle turn here. Oh, around this way, I think. What are they? So where are we? I think that's Juneau straight in front. I had my gear up. Gear down the whole time. Okay, I'm lost.
Speed, speed, speed. Speed, speed, speed.
Is that the wrong way there?
Speed, speed,
Looks like it should be, doesn't it?
speed, speed, speed. Speed, speed, speed.
Okay. Enough craziness. Let's stop messing about. And I can do this.
Sink rate. Sink rate. Sink rate.
Okay, this is looking more hopeful.
Pull up. Pull up. Sink rate.
Okay.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard.
Just off the end of the runway. So, I'm going to give up trying to fly into Juneau for now. That was awful again. Anyway, that's Nightmare on Scam Street. Once again in the green stuff at the end of the runway at Juneau. I'm going to practice some more and I'll come back and try it again later.